Schuyler Erle N0GIS.
That's right.
Okay, cool. I got it. He will be talking about ARDC in general and the 44net VPN, which is a very cool service, still in the making, but we'll hear the details. The reason I wanted to this talk at ZRDC is that there are so many applications for being able to access an amateur radio system over the internet cleanly. For example, I'm a Starlink customer, and the way they do IPv4 addresses is a Byzantine system called carrier grade network address translation, which translates to impossible to come back into the device, you know, the home. You can only go out, and then you have to set up if you want to communicate coming back in from the internet, you have to have a VPN. So, and this is an amateur radio VPN for amateur radio purposes, and I hope that it will be deployed soon. So, Schuyler.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Steve. Decided to spiff this up a little bit. We're trying to come up with a better name for this project. For now, I'm going to call it 44net Everywhere, and I'll explain what that means. Or we can think of this talk as everything from ARDC to ZRDC. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how you can operate your amateur station remotely, how you can access your home network from anywhere in the world, host your own internet services at home, build your own Hamnet-style wide area network, and learn computer networking by doing for learning's sake. And I don't know, you tell me. So I was going to ask for a quick show of hands because I wasn't entirely sure what the composition of the audience was going to be, but I'm guessing this is going to be most of you. So how many of you have heard of ARDC? Goodly number, that's good. And by the way, thank you, Kay, for the shout out earlier. And also thank you, Steve. It's nice to see the effect of the work that we do in the world. How many of you know what an IPv4 address is? Okay, again, I should have anticipated that. And so I'm assuming most of you know why IPv4 addresses are important. Yeah, I see some nods. All right, great. So I want to talk a little bit about ARDC before we continue and go into some more detail than what you may have been exposed to thus far. ARDC's mission is a mouthful. I'm going to try to do it justice. Our mission is to support, promote, and enhance digital communication and broader communication science and technology, to promote amateur radio, scientific research, experimentation, education, development, open access, and innovation in information and communication technology. So we cast a pretty wide net. So we think of ARDC as being really sort of AR and DC rather than necessarily the intersection of the two. So we do promote and support amateur radio. Absolutely, that's where our roots are. But we think of the work that we do as going beyond amateur radio as such and into realms that are in the spirit of amateur radio, right? So ARDC operates where the spirit of amateur radio and the practice of modern digital communications intersect. So our vision is the vision is what we want to bring to the world, and it is a thriving global community of learners, experimenters, and contributors advancing freedom with open source communication and information technology. And that open source part is actually really important to us. As a matter of principle, all of the work that we do is free and open for all to access and use. And so we have some high-level strategies to work towards this vision. We seek to promote learning, to promote experimenting, and to promote doing. And if that sounds familiar, it's because most of you, if not all, are amateur radio operators, and it's what we do, we're hams. So the origins of 44net are the origins of amateur radio digital communications. Back in 1981, John Postel very helpfully gave us, on request by Hank Bagnuski, the entire 44 Class A IPv4 network. How many of you know what this number is? I see one hand over there. I see a bunch of hands. Okay, you know what it is. This is roughly the number of IP addresses in a Class A IPv4 network. And these were all allocated for amateur radio use. in 1981 at a time when nobody knew if the internet would be a thing. So that means we have the entire 44/8 network, or had. And so we are now in the 44th year of 44net. So as I mentioned, Hank Wisniewski, KA6M, launched what was then known as AMPERNet, the I think it's the Amateur Packet Radio Network, which we now call 44net. In 2011, Brian Cantor, WB6CYT, formed ARDC to be the custodian of what was becoming increasingly valuable resource. And then in 2019, the board of directors of ARDC realized that the value of these IPv4 addresses could allow the foundation to realize benefit to the amateur radio community and the wider world in a number of ways that went beyond just having a ton of free public IP addresses. And so the foundation sold off 1/4 of the internet address space and created a large endowment to fund the foundation's operations and, critically, a grant-making program. And in 2020, started building a full-time staff to manage the operations of the foundation and the grants and technology programs. How many of you know or can guess what this number is? Okay, I see one hand. Go ahead. Sorry? It is not a /20. Anybody else? Go ahead. The number of IPv6 addresses? No. Actually, it is, as of when I wrote this talk, it is the number of dollars that Amateur Radio Digital Communications has given away in grant making to community projects over the last 6 years. So that's what we're up to at this point. We give away about $5 to $6 million a year to basically any not-for-profit project that is aligned with our mission. And that can range from local ham clubs that want to upgrade their repeater equipment, all the way to continent scale projects like Hamnet, who are building a point-to-point Wi-Fi mesh across all of Europe, to STEM education programs for kids. We support ARIS, the Amateur Radio and the International Space Station program. There's a lot of different ways in which this money gets spent, but all of it is aimed at advancing amateur radio and digital communications in the world. Okay, does anybody know what this number stands for? You got it. That's right. This is the total number of IP addresses, roughly, in the remainder of the 44net address space, which is the 44/9 and .128/10 networks, which is still a ton of IP addresses. So obviously we want these. So here's the thing, right? All of the resources that are in the custodianship of amateur radio digital communications come from this initial gift to the amateur radio community that was organized by the early leading lights of the internet. And so although ARDC is sort of formally the owner of this endowment and of the 44net IP address space, it in a real way it belongs to you. And we merely operate it on the collective behalf of the amateur radio community. And so we have all these IP addresses and we really want to see them get used. So we run an application we call the 44net portal that is used to manage the allocation of the IP address space to licensed amateurs all around the world. These images are a little smaller than I had hoped that they would be, but basically we have a global community of amateurs that are making use of these IP addresses. And the portal also allows you as an amateur radio operator to log in, to upload a copy of your license or whatever credentials you have. And then having established yourself as a licensed amateur operator, you can requisition IPv4 addresses in the 44net address space, public, globally routable IP addresses. And so 44net is meant to be sort of real IPv4 for real hams, right? It's globally routable. It's reserved for amateur operator use. They're free. It's public IPv4. So as Steve was saying, it's not network address translated. It's not hidden behind in ISP's network address translated network. And it's meant to be a platform for learning, experimenting, and doing. And all you need to get access to it is a call sign, sort of. So here's what you can do with 44net, I mentioned. With a public globally routable IP address, you can, and I think actually I'm going to blaze through this because you all know this already, right? You know, with a public IP address, you can get access to your own network from anywhere in the world. It means you can operate an amateur station remotely, access your home network, operate your own internet services from your own network. You can build a Hamnet style wide area network that is, a network radio mesh that is connected to the internet using publicly routable IP addresses. And critically, this exists so that you can use it to learn and to teach internet networking for its own sake. And then, of course, I have no idea. You tell me. When I said sort of, what I meant was, well, all right, how many of you know what BGP is? Okay, you actually are probably more technically sophisticated than I am. I kind of want somebody else to get up here and give this talk. Okay, so if you know what BGP is, then you know what a pain in the butt it is to actually use in practice, because you have to have somebody to announce your BGP routes, right? You have to actually have an ISP or some sort of upstream provider, and there's all kinds of constraints on it. So BGP is not really easy for most amateur operators to use. This is actually a very select group right here, I have to say. I tell people, I ask people at like Hamvention if they are able to, if they have an ISP that'll announce BGP for them, and most of them just give me this blank look. How about this IP? Do any of you know what this is? A much smaller show of hands. Okay, IP is an internet protocol that tunnels IP packets over IP packets, and so it allows you to kind of route traffic point to point on an ad hoc basis. So 44net has this adoption problem, right? The network program, right? The 44net program, as operated by ARDC, provides public static IPv4 addresses, but 44net addresses currently require either that you have somebody to announce a BGP route for you, or that you establish an IP tunnel to route the traffic from your assigned network space to wherever it is that you actually want it to be hosted. ARDC has for many, many, many years operated an IP protocol gateway that quite a few people in the community are using to route traffic in preference to using BGP. But even this requires you to have a public IP address that the IP gateway can connect to, right? So in a 44net itself is actually kind of limited in its utility because you need to have possibly a static IP address, but certainly a public IP address to actually be able to make use of any of these, the 44net subnets. So we have this adoption problem. We've always had this adoption problem. And the result is that the 44net address space is not as widely used as it really should be, given that it is a resource that belongs to you. Enter WireGuard. Show hands. How many of you know what WireGuard is or have used it? Okay, sorry, you can already see where this talk is going then, right? So it's a VPN that allows you to tunnel IPv4 or IPv6. It is cryptographically secure. It's quite easy to configure relative to any other VPN software out there. It's free software, and there are clients on just about every platform you can think of. And because it's UDP based, it gets around a lot of the problems that come into play when you try to connect across network address translated boundaries. So what we are doing at ARDC, what we call our point of presence project, or as I like to call it, 44net anywhere or everywhere, is your virtual public network, right? It sort of turns the idea of a VPN on its head, right? Because what we do is take your 44net IP address allocation and point it at our WireGuard VPN server. And then your WireGuard client connects to the VPN server, and all of the traffic to your 44net public IP addresses gets routed over that WireGuard server to wherever your client is connecting from. You receive all that traffic, no matter where you actually are. And what that means, not to jump ahead too far, but what that means is, your WireGuard client could be running on a server in your internal home network. It could be running on your cell phone. I actually have a public static IP address on my cell phone because WireGuard, it's pretty cool. So this is our point of presence project. So ARDC hosts the VPN server. We host the dashboard that allows you to log in and request 44net IP addresses. We generate the WireGuard config for you. which you can literally just then copy and paste into a WireGuard client, or if you want to use it on your phone, you can just scan the QR code. And now you have a free static public IPv4 address. So the dashboard basically looks like this. There are two steps. One is you decide which point of presence endpoint, which VPN server you want your traffic to be routed through. And then you give your VPN tunnel a name, and that's it. That's it. I don't think we could make it any easier. If you can figure out how we could make this easier for you, please let us know. There are some additional options here, but they are strictly optional. If, for example, you object to having our dashboard generate your private key for you, you can upload your own public key, and your private key never leaves your client. If you have the technical knowledge how to do that, and I gather most of you do. And so then the result is you get this kind of INI style file that you can just cut and paste in any WireGuard client. And we also generate a QR code, which can be used to configure a mobile device that has a camera on it. Again, I don't know how we could make this easier. And it's just a WireGuard configuration file. So if you want to customize these options, it's quite easy to do. WireGuard itself, again, I mentioned, is supported on pretty much every desktop and server operating system on most of the mobile handset platforms. A whole bunch, basically any open source router, and a whole bunch of routers that are not open source support WireGuard out of the box. So you can have your 44net IP addresses routed to just about anything. There are some caveats. So this is the dashboard, and you are now welcome to come and join our beta program. You can scan the QR code there, or you can go to this URL. Please don't abuse it. This is still a private beta. We have not really seriously locked down access to it. If you go and log in, we are going to take your word that you are an amateur operator, and we will follow up on that with you later. If you do sign up for this, please also make sure that you have an account in the 44net portal using the same email address. That way we can verify you later. But we do want you to use this. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm talking about this. We want people to try it out. We want feedback. We're interested in your ideas. And most of all, we want you to use this address space because it belongs to you. Still in beta. It is free software. So the 44net POP project is free software. We would love for people to identify features that they want and contribute to the project. And I just want to emphasize, this is not for production traffic, right? We're amateur operators. Everything that we do is at some level experimental. ARDC offers all of the things that we offer on a best effort basis. So don't do anything critical over this. This is meant for you to experiment with. And of course, we're amateur operators. This is never meant to be used for commercial purposes. So just to be really clear about that. But the result is that you get IPv4 addresses, which are static. They're publicly addressable. They're globally routable. They're easy for you, hopefully, to request and configure. And they're free to any ham with a current license. And we are hoping that this brings the barrier for amateur radio operators to adopt this address space, which, as I mentioned, is yours. We've lowered that bar as low as we possibly can. And we really want you to get involved in the 44net program and make use of this resource, which is already yours. So I was going to say right now, some of you are really excited and some of you are thinking, so what? And again, when we pitch this program to people at Hamvention or other amateur focused events, I feel like I get a lot of blank looks, right? Like I feel like most operators kind of fall into one of two categories. Either they're a ham who is kind of old school and not super into computer networking, and they're like, well, what would I do with that? And then there's, I guess, the folks in this room that know exactly what IPv4 networking is, and you know what a rare and precious resource we have access to, and you can start thinking about things that you can do with it. Like I don't even get public IP addresses, static IP addresses assigned to my home network by my ISP. I can't get a static IP at home, except now I can. So here's what, and this is the list I already went through. And honestly, I'm really more excited to hear what applications you would have for this, because I feel like what we have listed here is only the obvious stuff, and it's really just the tip of the iceberg. And If you needed any reminders as to why you might do such a thing, it's the same as the why we do amateur radio, right? This is what ARDC is all about. It's about learning about science and technology. It's about building things to see how they work. It's about doing social activities with like-minded folks and looking for ways to serve our communities, and some combination of the above. So please join us. You can create an account for yourself at dashboard.44net.cloud. You can find out more about the 44net program at amper.org. And finally, if you are not already hip to this, as I said, ARDC gives away $5 million a year to people doing nonprofit technology projects, possibly just like you. And believe me when I say it is actually hard to give away that much money a year in a way that is responsible. So we really want people who are dedicated and really in love with the work that they're doing, who are clearly going to make good use of these resources, which, as I mentioned, are already yours. So please come and apply for grants for pretty much whatever you're doing. If it's aligned with the mission of ARDC, then we want to hear from you, and we want to find ways to put the resources that we have into your hands. And I also want to emphasize that because of that, we'll just take informal pitches. Let us know what you think, what you want to do, what you want to build, and we will find some way to help you craft the pitch that will land you a grant. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions? Bunch of questions. That's great. Let's just start front.
Wait for the microphones. I'll start with one, Schuyler.
Yeah, please.
So WireGuard, any device that supports WireGuard, good to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you get a 44net public IP address routed to that device. Or actually, we also will route small subnets. So you can have a bunch of static IP addresses routed to that device. Anything that runs WireGuard, you bet.
I guess my concern was always what hardware is going to work with this particular thing. But as long as it says WireGuard on it,
no, that's exactly right. And actually, I have to confess something, which is that the first time I tried this out, I just had like one of these like NUC boxes, just like a little Intel kind of home media server thing. And I was just, the first time I experimented with this project, I installed WireGuard. I cut and paste the configuration into the WireGuard configurator, and I restarted the WireGuard service on this Linux box. And I was like, is it working? I don't even know. And so I started TCP dump, and I realized that this server, which had been behind a firewall, is now suddenly getting a flood of traffic from the internet, right, to this publicly routed IP address. And I'm like, oh my God, this is, I didn't harden this at all. This is just like a random Linux box inside my network that now is suddenly flooded with public internet traffic. And I'm like, oh. So, it's public IP, we're publicly routable IP with everything that comes with. So, just fair warning. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Do you have guidance for the uninitiated of what it really means to be on the raw internet, i.e. put up a firewall?
That is a great question. Heretofore with 44net, the barrier to participation has been so high. Like if you had to know what BGP was, then we sort of assume that that you're already aware of the hazards of being on the public internet. And this is a private beta, and I think that you have alluded to a really good point, which is that in our promotional materials, we might be wise to give less initiated users a little bit of a heads up as to, maybe you want to run a firewall in addition to WireGuard.
Well, for those very few that don't know this, if you're using, for example, your Comcast is running an awful lot of interference for you before the bad guys can get to you. Not that they can't, but the barrier is much higher than there is with 44net. So be warned. And my approach is going to be when my 44net IP addresses, they're going to go onto a machine that if it gets contaminated, I can nuke it and start over. And it's not going to go anywhere near my precious devices. So other questions?
Okay, got one back here.
Yeah, sure, I'll go. Thank you. Is this live? Yes. Paul, WB660. Just a question, historical. Way back in the midst of time, I ran a KA9Q NOS node. And I had one of those IP addresses. I'm just curious what happened to that particular IP address. Is it still around or?
What was the IP address?
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
So,
I'm sorry.
so ones that were used
It,
they're not in a special.
it depends on how far back in the midst of time we're going, and so I can't honestly tell you.
Okay.
What I would encourage you to do is to sign up for just sign up for the 44net portal. And there's a bunch of steps you have to go through because we do validate people's amateur licenses. But I don't know if I couldn't tell you whether that IP address has been reallocated or not. Probably not. But certainly we have plenty more for you to pick from.
Yeah, no, I wasn't particularly in love with that one address. I just
Okay.
curious what might have happened.
Yeah, there's more. Don't worry, there's more to be had. They're not going to waste.
How do you handle reverse DNS pointer records?
That's an excellent question, and that is I would say that's on our to-do list. So the 44net program does operate a DNS server for the benefit of 44net users. So when you register, when you get allocated a 44net subnet, you can create pretty much as many DNS entries as you want, and we'll host that DNS for you. Reverse DNS is something that is on our roadmap. It's something we've been wanting, I think everybody's been wanting for a long time. So it doesn't exist yet, but I'm glad the more people ask for it, the more juice we get to go out and make that a reality.
Okay, yeah.
Another question back there.
Oh, sorry, was there any more to your question?
Oh, yeah, well, I have one other one. So if you have a subnet assigned already, the portal will recognize that?
Again, as I understand it, all of the operation of the network is in the 44net portal. So if you have a 44net allocation and you do not have an account in the 44net portal,
No,
let's get that straightened out.
I do have an account.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So, but I haven't tried the portal yet, or the dashboard.
Sorry. So to be completely clear, the allocation of VPN addresses of, the 44net POP addresses is separate from whatever subnet you may, or subnets you might already have in the 44net portal, right? Because the 44net portal addresses are all going to be either BGP or IP, and you presumably have already got that locked down. But if you want one-off addresses or like a, /29 or /30 that's routed through the VPN, that's allocated separately.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? Is there, because I have a /27, how do I access that?
Okay. Yeah. Maybe this is something we can talk about afterwards.
Oh, okay.
If that's okay. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
We got one here. Let's go.
Hello.
Sorry, we're not getting audio. Thank you.
We have one over here.
Okay, while they work that out, I have a question. What things can you not do? You said no commercial use, but is there an elaboration on that, like certain applications you shouldn't use?
So we have a terms of use, and that lays out the specifics of it in a bunch of legalese. But I mean, to summarize it, like we expect people to confine themselves to activities, the kinds of activities that they would do over the amateur airwaves, right? So, hams use the amateur bands for all kinds of things, right? For experimentation, for personal use. If you are a ham, we're not going to tell you necessarily like, oh, you can't host your own personal website on this or whatever. But anything that is illegal or that would contradict either the spirit or the letter of amateur regulation is something that it would absolutely be frowned on. Is that helpful?
All right, let's try this again. So could you come over this way? This gets so complicated.
I think maybe we're getting audio now.
This one's definitely working.
No, it's just me, I think.
There you go.
Okay.
Much better.
Where was I? So SANS.org has a statistic, you can find it on their webpage, that says if you connect an unpatched host to the internet, it will survive about 5 minutes before it's infected. Now, I think that probably means an unpatched Windows 7 or something like
Yeah.
that. But the internet is a rather hostile place. But my question is, and you've alluded to some of this, but if I have a 44 net address coming through this portal, is there an expectation that it ever traverse amateur spectrum?
No, the 44 net address space is, for our purposes, routed only over the internet. There are users that are there are users that are employing their 44 net allocations for essentially private networks that are like microwave point-to-point microwave mesh networks. There are, I think, people that are still doing packet radio using 44 net IP addresses, and obviously that's what it was originally intended for. So there absolutely are people using 44 net addresses on the air. But what you do with your subnet allocation is kind of up to you. It is not necessarily the case that when you get a 44 net IP address, anything goes out over the internet, goes out over the airwaves rather. It's just internet routable. At that point, it's up to you. Is that helpful?
Repeating the question, am I
No,
supposed to use amateur radio spectrum for 44 net? Is that, did I get it? I'm just trying to keep the
Yeah.
online audience informed.
Thank you. The only requirement is that you are a licensed amateur operator. That's all. Is that helpful?
And if it does go over the air and you are the one doing it, it's your license at risk for doing bad things.
Any other questions? We'll try.
So George, this might actually push me over the edge to actually get my license. You're giving out /24 addresses. Are you not going to run out soon? Because they're worth like 10 grand USD now.
We have 12 million IP addresses still, of which not very many of them are actually in use. Like, I want to have that problem. I want 44net to be so successful and so that I want people to get amateur radio licenses because they get a free /24 just for signing up, right? Like, this is an incentive. It should be an incentive. So yeah, please get your ticket and then come join the fun.
What's your rough utilization of IP addresses then?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's in the tens of thousands.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, we're not going to run out anytime soon. I want to have that problem.
So I realize you're routing IPv4. What about IPv6 over the network? Are you supporting that as well?
Also a great question. So yes, in the 44net portal, we do manage an IPv6 subnet. That is it's a subnet that was donated by Chris Smith, whose call sign I forget, who's based in the UK. ARDC does not explicitly manage an IPv6 subnet on behalf of the amateur community per se. We intend to. There are some experimental ideas in the IPv6 space that we want to pursue, and that's the only reason why we haven't gone out and gotten a block to share with hams yet. But the thing about IPv6 is, like, you can go get your own /56 tomorrow. And so this afternoon. And so the reason for doing that, I think, is more about building community within amateur operators and promoting the education in IPv6 and experimentation there, rather than necessarily managing a scarce resource, if that makes sense. Yeah. Do you have a response to that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, just more, the stacks now are starting to become, IPv6 focused, right? So in some places, in fact, this just happened to me in Comcast, where it stopped routing IPv4 for a while and only routed IPv6. That was a bug. But I think increasingly common as we run out of IPv4 space, right?
Oh, no, that's absolutely right. And there's an argument to be made that ARDC, as part of our mission of promoting innovation, we ought to be sponsoring and promoting the use of more modern IPv6, more modern internet technologies, right? Like IPv6 is like brand new, right? It's like 25 or 30 years old. So, I mean, we should be promoting the latest and greatest, right? But there are things that could be done with IPv6, which we're still investigating, that I think would bring innovation to that space as well. And we're just not quite ready to roll that out yet.
And then just one other esoteric question. So I'm assuming multicast is fully supported through this as well.
There is no intrinsic limitation on that. Pretty much anything that you can do with a publicly routable subnet, you can do with 44net.
Okay, we're going to take our last question from our virtual audience.
There's a comment and a question from the virtual audience. Tom says that that was a great presentation. I created an account already on the 44net Cloud dashboard. Looking forward to checking it out. Couldn't find your email on QRZ, so many thanks for an informative presentation with intriguing content. And Jeff Scoville says, question. Any traffic limits for the VPN tunnels? What type of bandwidth is typically available?
So that's a great question, and actually this is a subject of intense discussion within the ARDC maintains a technical advisory committee which kind of rotates some members every year, and one of the subcommittees of our technical advisory committee has been spearheading the POP project, and ARDC manages these resources on behalf of the amateur community, and we want you to use them. But also as the director of technology of amateur radio digital communications, I have to tell you that the board of directors expects me to keep us on budget, right? Not because we can't spend the money, but I have to go and justify spending the money, and I'm not allowed to show up with surprise bandwidth bills. And that's part of why the beta has been private so far, is we're trying to get a sense of, if you will, sort of what the duty cycle of the network is before we open it up to a wider audience. First off, you shouldn't be using BitTorrent on 44net unless it's to like download Linux ISOs or something. But in general, like high bandwidth applications are kind of discouraged. And when we do a broader rollout, like I'm sharing this with you because there's a few dozen people in this room, and through the concatenation of social and professional relationships, we are willing to trust you. But before we roll out into a more public beta, we are going to be instituting bandwidth caps, and I don't yet know exactly what those are going to be. So we will share information about that with the folks using the network so that they know what to expect.
So just so that you know, this conference received a sponsorship from ARDC, which we are grateful for. And
It's an honor. It's really, we're glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
And somebody told me you feel like Santa Claus sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'm a big burly guy with a beard. I get to get up on stage and hand out gifts. Are you kidding? I love it.
I was gonna say we got to work on the costume.
Oh, yeah, next year. Anyway, thank you all so much. Really appreciate your time.